At precisely 7:30 in the morning, the old golden retriever would limp its way down Bolniknaya Street, tail low, movement slow and deliberate. His fur was once bright, but now dulled by time and city dust. He had no collar, no tag, no clear owner. People called him all sorts of names: Ryzik, Stary, Sabachka, but he never responded to any of them. He only responded to the manhole. Asterisk near the faded yellow bus stop, a rusted sewer lid sat crooked in the pavement, surrounded by weeds and cigarette butts. And every morning, the dog known by most now simply as the sewer dog would sit before it, not sniffing, not barking, just watching. Asterisk sometimes he'd place his snout directly over the tiny ventilation holes and inhale deeply, as if expecting to smell something. At other times he'd whine faintly, a sound that broke the hearts of those who bothered to listen. But most people didn't. They walked past him in their morning rush, earbuds in, coffee in hand, their minds on work, traffic, bills. What was? One more stray in a city full of noise? But that particular Thursday was different. The sky had been grumbling all night, and by dawn it broke into a torrent of rain that flooded the sidewalks and sent shopkeepers scrambling to shut their awnings. Gutters overflowed, water danced in the potholes, and the cold wind bit through even the thickest coats. Asterisk still. The dog came. Asterisk drenched. Trembling, legs caked in mud, he limped to the same sewer lid and began to bark, louder than ever before. It wasn't the casual bark of a dog disturbed by noise. This was frantic, desperate, a warning, a plea. Some passers-by stopped and stared that an old woman crossed herself. Asterisk A. Group of teenagers took a video and laughed. Asterisk. But one man, Dima, the nearby pelmeni vendor who always gave the dog leftover dumplings, stood frozen beneath his dripping umbrella, watching as the golden retriever scratched at the manhole cover until his paws turned red. Asterisk. Something's wrong, Dima muttered to himself, heart pounding for reasons he couldn't explain. Asterisk. He pulled out his phone and called the city emergency line. Asterisk. Yeah, hello. Listen, there's this dog, it's been barking at the sewer for days. But today it's going mad, scratching, crying. There's water rushing in down there. Please, just check it. Sir, we don't respond to animal concerns. It's not just an animal thing. Something's down there, I swear, please. Asterisk. Maybe it was the panic in his voice. Maybe the dispatcher was bored. But 20 minutes later, a small city utility van pulled up, windshield fogged, hazard lights flashing. A grumbling middle-aged technician named Sergey stepped out, umbrella in one hand, crowbar in the other. Asterisk. Where's this genius dog? Dima pointed. The dog barked louder now, circling the manhole, tail stiff, fur soaked and clinging to his ribs. Sergey raised an eyebrow. All right, let's humor the mutt. Asterisk. He wedged the crowbar beneath the edge of the lid, grunted, and heaved. The heavy iron cover shifted with a groan, then lifted, and at that exact moment, everyone heard it. Faint, barely audible over the rain. A cry? Asterisk. Not a dog, not a rat. A child. Asterisk. Sergey dropped to his knees and aimed his flashlight down into the narrow shaft, the beam slicing through the mist and water vapor swirling below. His hand trembled. Mother of God. He whispered. Asterisk. There, lodged between two broken concrete slabs deep inside the storm drain, was a boy. Maybe 4 or 5. Covered in muck, his lips bluish. His small hand clutched a filthy stuffed toy so tightly it had almost fused to his skin. His eyes, though barely open, fluttered at the sudden light, and his cracked lips moved without sound. Sergey shouted into his radio. Dima fell to his knees, breath knocked out of him. The dog sat beside the open manhole now, silent once again. just watching, waiting, knowing that they pulled the boy out in silence. Two rescue workers lowered themselves carefully into the sewer shaft with ropes and harnesses, their rubber boots splashing into the murky water below. The golden retriever, soaked to the bone, stood only a few feet from the edge, unmoving, eyes fixed on the darkness, ears flicking at every sound echoing up from the tunnel. Asterisk, it took nearly 30 minutes. Asterisk, the boy was wedged tight beneath collapsed concrete, one leg bent at an unnatural angle. The rescuers worked gently, methodically, whispering to each other so as not to scare him further. His eyes were barely open, his breathing shallow, but when the rescuer touched the toy clutched in his hand, the child whimpered and pulled it tighter to his chest. Asterisk, his name, they would later learn, was Misha Vlasov, 4 years old. He had been missing for 6 days. Asterisk, one of the rescuers carried him up in a fireman's hold, slowly emerging from the shaft like a ghost rising from the grave. As soon as the boy surfaced, the crowd around the sewer gasped, some audibly, others with wide, horrified eyes. A woman cried out and covered her mouth. A taxi driver whispered a prayer under his breath. The rain hadn't let up, but no one moved. They were rooted there, frozen by the sheer weight of what had just happened. Asterisk, the boy was limp in the rescuer's arms, mud-covered, shivering, pale as paper. But he was alive. Asterisk, an ambulance, now parked on the sidewalk with sirens off, doors open, received him like a miracle. Paramedics rushed forward. Oxygen mask. 4. Emergency wrap. The medic's voice trembled as she read his vitals. Pulse weak but present. Temp low. We've got time. We've got time. Asterisk, the golden retriever, made no sound. He simply followed the stretcher as it rolled to the ambulance, his gaze never breaking from Misha's small, trembling form. As the doors shut with a metallic thud, the dog sat in the puddle where the manhole cover had been, as if waiting for something more. Asterisk, in the hospital, Misha was stabilized. Doctors were stunned. Dehydrated, yes. Hypothermic. Fractured leg. But alive after 6 days in a dark, wet, rat-infested tunnel, completely unseen by anyone. The media descended like a storm. Reporters camped outside the hospital. News anchors ran footage of the dog's vigil by the sewer. Photos of Bim, his muddy fur, his bleeding paws. His watchful eyes made headlines across the country. Asterisk, sewer dog saves missing child. Asterisk, hero without a name. Asterisk, he barked, until someone heard. Asterisk, when the parents were finally allowed to see their son, they clung to him like driftwood in a flood. The father, normally a reserved civil servant, collapsed beside the bed, unable to stop sobbing. The mother whispered apologies between kisses to his forehead. Asterisk, Misha was still weak when a psychologist gently asked him if he remembered anything. What had happened, what he saw, how he felt. He only said 4 words. Is Bim okay? Everyone in the room paused. The parents exchanged looks. The psychologist blinked. One nurse turned away, quietly wiping her eyes. Asterisk, Bim? The mother asked. Asterisk, the dog, Misha whispered, barely audible. He stayed with me. And then the story completed itself. Misha had fallen through a sidewalk sinkhole while chasing a butterfly near the park. The ground collapsed beneath him and he tumbled into darkness. His screams were muffled by the city above, his calls for help drowned by traffic. But the dog, the same golden retriever who followed him home from kindergarten, who he fed crusts of bread to, who he named Bim even though no one else seemed to notice him, had followed the scent. He found the manhole. And he never left. Asterisk, the next morning, under a soft sun and clearing skies, Misha, still in a wheelchair, blanket over his knees, was brought to the hospital courtyard. Asterisk, the golden retriever was already waiting. Asterisk, when their eyes met, Misha's arms stretched out instinctively. The dog padded forward, slow, stiff-legged, but steady. He pressed his head gently against the boy's chest. Asterisk, no one said a word. Some filmed it. Others didn't dare breathe. The boy began to cry, not from fear, not from pain, but from relief. Asterisk. Dog, as always, made no sound. He just stayed. Asterisk, in the weeks that followed, Bim was officially adopted by the Vlasov family. A vet cleaned his wounds and treated his joints. Misha's recovery was long but full of light now. He never let Bim out of his sight. Every morning, the boy would whisper secrets into the dog's ears, like prayers, like promises. Asterisk, and on Bolniknaya Street, a small plaque now marks the manhole. Asterisk, here, a silent guardian waited and saved a life.